Welcome everyone. As we all know, India is on the journey from less cash to cashless. India's digital payment market witnessed exceptional growth over the past few years, with efforts from regulators, schemes, industry stakeholders, and above all, the adoption shown by the consumers has really helped in further deepening the cashless transactions in the country. Users have shifted from net banking, UPI, wallets to the other digital acceptance method. And consumers now today are more aware, more demanding about the best way of making payments. So today we have our esteemed panel with a lot of experience on payment, enormous experience in terms of executing the payment strategies, and we'll discuss how the changing consumer behavior will drive innovation in the payment acceptance ecosystem. To introduce first Vikas Saraogi, Vice President, Head of Acceptance, South Asia, a very seasoned payment professional from Mastercard. Navin, Chief Manager, Punjab National Bank, an astute payment strategist. I've known him for many years now. And Vinay Chaloti, Head of Digital Payments, SMA Business, Amazon Pay. He has deep understanding of changing payment ecosystem. Vinay, I hope I pronounced your surname right.
It's Choleti.
Choleti. I'm sorry. So Vinay Choleti. Now, to start the session, I think I want to start from something which is very close to our heart, something which is some people who are pretty close to us, and then we move on to the industry. So let me first ask you as to what are the behavioral changes you have seen within your family and friends, people who have been pretty close to you, because you have been in the payment industry. And I'm sure that the changes which you have observed in the last 1 year would have been very different from all your experience in the payment industry for more than 10, 15 years. So just wanted to start with the family and then we move on to the industry. So maybe Vinay, you want to start first?
Yeah, sure. I think, thank you. First of all, thank you for inviting me to the panel. I think it's an honor to be in the presence of people like Navin and Vikas. From my limited experience and whatever personal experience I've had, Vishal, I think the last 3-4 years have been really transformational in the way the payments has shaped up. And an important example that I could quote from my family is my father. He's about 72 years old now and just got used to smartphones about 2 to 3 years back. But he's never been used to digital payments. But I think with the advent of UPI, it's been one of the greatest levelers in digital payments in the last few years. Earlier, it was extremely difficult for me to explain to my dad on why should he load a wallet, what is a wallet in the first case, why should we keep a money in a place where there is no interest that is being earned. But once UPI has come in, the way he's been using it now, it pans across, electricity bill payments, property tax, phone bills, scanning at external merchants, and then even to the extent of making investments, right, using Zerodha or something like that. So that's the transformation that has happened with him over the last, 2 to 3 years. And despite that, I think our payment experiences have still not evolved to cater to that kind of customer segment. He still looks for more convenience that is applicable to that kind of customer segment. So he looks at how transaction history can be improved because he finds it very difficult to see where transactions are recorded or other customer service experiences in different apps are like differently placed. So he still gets a little confused and he keeps giving feedback that you guys should look at how you can improve experiences for older age people, because payments has improved, but experience is still not improved in the way I can access a lot of these things. So I think that's a very, very candid feedback coming from somebody who's 72 years old, a new customer segment that is evolving and picking up digital payments.
No, absolutely. You said it right. I think what I really liked about what you said is payment has improved, but the experience is yet to improve. And I have also seen similar kind of experience and feedback coming from my dad. So, Vikas, what about you?
Thanks, Vishal, for having me. So, firstly, I think the credit card spends on my card, especially in the online space, has gone up in the last 12 to 18 months. My wife is shopping on Amazon practically every second day. That gives me almost like a heart attack every night. I think Vinay should be happy about that. And if we look at my son as well, he's just a 14-year-old kid. And last 12 months, he actually himself applied for a prepaid card for himself. And he started buying educational products online himself. So what that tells me is that the market is evolving. The consumers who were earlier resistant to kind of do online transactions because of the pandemic and the organic growth as well, they are far more confident, and they are far more used to doing online transactions. So I think that's a clear shift that I am seeing, not only in my home, not only in my wallet, but across the industry. If we have seen some numbers as well, and the consumers are kind of alluding to that kind of trend. So it is 78, more than 80% consumers actually, as per Mastercard research, said that these trends are here to stay. They will continue to do online contact-free transactions even after the things get normal. So yeah.
No, I think whatever progress we have made, but still I believe it is just a starting. And I still remember your 2019 Reach speech where you said that you still don't have terminals in your village. And I think now I'm pretty sure you must be having terminals, wallets, UPI, everything there in your village, back in your village.
Hope so. Sincerely hope so. Thank you.
And yes, obviously, Generation Next is something which is really teaching us a lot of things in terms of how to really change our way of making transactions. But Navin, coming to you, what is your take? What have you seen in your family?
Very recently, because just 2 years back, my wife applied for a credit card and she took it. And what I found was whenever we go out for shopping, usually I end up paying. Okay, so that's a common experience, I believe, across the board. But recently, just a month back, I started noticing then whenever we are going out and the payment is made, my wife simply takes out her phone, scans, and pays. So that was a pleasant surprise for me. And it's not from a perspective of, it's quite hard for ladies to reach out to their wallet and take out their cards. And when you see a lady to do a shopping transaction, take out a mobile and practically making a debit out of her own account, that tells you something, the ease of payment is there. So that part is the very recent experience that I'm having. Secondly, a few things that I've noticed with my son. One day he was trying to buy a game on TV, on a Amazon Fire Stick, and he simply asked, we have a connected home, so he simply asked Alexa, buy me this game. Luckily, I didn't have a card linked to my account, and Alexa was not authorized. However, that's the two generation we are talking about. One who is simply a touch-based generation, who is scanning and paying, and the other generation who is a voice-based generation, is just speaking to its system, trying to look into a connected device and say pay for it. So we have that kind of a milestone that we have to cover. So we are just at the beginning of a revolution. It is starting to change, but 10 years, next 10 years, I believe, will be the most fantastic change that we'll see in the payment domain.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think with your case, I think women empowerment along with digital payments is really, really making a lot of headways in your personal life. So I think the way you beautifully, all three of you explained, right from what Vinay explained about his father, which is an old generation, to the the generation right now and to the generation next. I think payment is really covering up and managing and ensuring that the experience is quite customized for each of these generations. And in the last 1 year, we definitely have seen in the COVID time, 1.5 years, we have seen witnessed the transactions really really gone up. And one of the key reasons has been the contactless. The contactless has been in the forefront because everybody wanted to play safe, and plus they wanted to be quick in terms of transactions. But then with COVID, digital payments have grown. At the same time, I believe there are some other very important reasons which have actually helped us grow the digital payment acceptance business in the last 1.5 years. Vinay, I would want to ask you, you have a very deep understanding about what is happening in terms of the consumer side, what's happening in terms of the merchant side. So what, in your view, are the reasons why payment acceptance has really caught up in the last 1.5 years, apart from the COVID?
Yeah, I think COVID obviously has been the impetus behind the growth, but I think there were a lot of other inputs which were brewing in the environment before COVID actually accelerated the adoption of those things that were happening in the environment. For example, we talk about generally when you talk about digital payments, people say that the penetration of smartphones has significantly increased, and then there is cheap internet connectivity that has kind of reached every single corner of this country, and people are able to use it. But those, I think, are factors that have been happening for a long time. But I think there are certain other factors which have significantly evolved over the last 2 to 3 years. For example, the first one I would say is the product innovation, right? Yeah, I think one is the selection of products that is available to customers and merchants, and there's a lot of innovation that's been happening in that space. Earlier, it was only wallets that was available. Then UPI came in and created a revolution. Post that, it's new things like buy now pay later, which is now the buzzword, and a lot of new startups and everybody has been coming up and doling out credit to segments which are erstwhile not available to banks, not being accessed by them. So there's a whole new wave of customer segments that have come into the digital economy, which is creating that buzz, right? The second, I think, is the government push, or I would say the thing that has happened from RBI. The number one, I think, is on the KYC, right? Earlier, KYC was paper based, and the RBI's adoption of digital KYC and the ability to use digital KYC to authorize customers and merchants has really created a huge adoption and removed a large friction. The second, I think, is the interoperability, right? Interoperability starting from UPI, then now going over to wallets. Not many people have still adopted that, but I think that's this next big thing that's going to come in terms of interoperability of wallets that's going to create a big wave in adoption of digital payments. So I think the third, I think, is advent of new financing companies like non-banking financial companies, which have significantly grown over the last few years. And there are a lot of startups which have kind of used banks as a support system and doled out customer experiences which are seamless for anybody to use and transact. I think those are the things that have actually helped. So if I were to put it, it is obviously the large ecological things like smartphones and internet, followed by new product innovations that have come in terms of accessibility and convenience, and also the selection of products like buy now, pay later and wallets, everything. Then RBI's push, RBI's ability to adopt new technology. And I think the next big thing in digital innovation is going to be the NUEs that the government has opened up. And if these things can really happen, I think it will create a fair competition and also a large drive a large amount of innovation in the way digital payments is going to shape up in the next few years.
Yeah, you're right, Vinay. And when you speak about regulators, I think regulators have contributed a lot, and especially when it comes to contactless. And I think if you look at the trends in terms of a contactless in the last 1 year, today, if my numbers are right, then at least we have 15% penetration of contactless in the overall transactions, what happens today. So you rightly mentioned about innovation, the product, the overall ecosystem is evolving. But I really want to bring this point, back to the contactless. And because I want to ask you, I believe 15% is a good number on contactless. And I think that's a very clear behavioral change which I've seen, both on the merchant side as well as consumer side. So with all what Vinay spoke about in terms of innovation, in terms of ecosystem, in terms of how regulators are supporting things, but contactless is something which still needs to grow. So what is your take on it?
Absolutely. So I think contactless was on a growth path. As you rightly mentioned, it's somewhere around 15% of face-to-face transactions today. But I think there's a lot of headroom to grow. And this, we now have tailwinds. The pandemic has shown consumers the importance of maintaining social distancing, and therefore contactless comes to the forefront. So I think there are a few things if we do it right. I think we can take this contactless story to the next level, and which is where a country like, say, in Australia, where more than 90% of face-to-face transactions are contactless, or if you see Singapore market in Australia, or say European markets where more than 50% of transactions are contactless, I think all of us need to work together. And that, I think I would say 2-3 things. If we do it right, I think we can take that leap. So I think firstly, on the bank side, on the issuing bank side, if we kind of make contactless as the default card when the card is issued to the consumer, I think that will go a long way. I think we have made significant progress when it comes to credit card issuance, but on debit card issuance, I do feel that there is still, there's still room to improve the contactless issuance bit. And India is a debit market, largely debit market, right? You have more than 800 million debit cards against close to 60 million credit cards, right? So that is one. Secondly, I think the market is moving towards the mobile-based transactions, and Navin was talking about his wife doing scan and pay. I think now we have the technology and we have the critical mass to enable mobile tap and go payments. So rather than scanning, Navin's wife can take her phone, provision her card, and then tap that phone on the device, and a contactless transaction can go through. I think that experience is wonderful. I think if all the players in the ecosystem, including banks, including non-banks, players like Google's, Amazon's of the world, all of us promote it together, I think that will go a long way. And the advantage of that process or system, mobile-based tap and go, is that even if your card is non-contactless, but your phone has NFC, then you can still do a NFC mobile-based transaction, right? So I think those are the two critical pieces. On the industry side or the regulator side, regulator has been very supportive. They have increased the contactless limit from 2,000 rupees to 5,000, which I think was very progressive. And we have seen the results coming in. You spoke about 15% penetration. If one thing we can do to further support this ecosystem is, what we have done is, today contactless has become an opt-in feature, which means that even if you get a contactless card, it comes to you as in an inactive state. And you have to call up your bank or write to the bank or call up at the call center to activate the contactless functionality. I think if it can be turned around to make it a contactless opt-out, which means contactless functionality should be enabled at the time of issuance of card. But if a consumer doesn't want it, then he can call up the bank and switch it off. I think that would make a lot of sense. And the reason I'm saying this is the frauds on contactless have been close to nil in India. Forget about, you can see some of those, videos and all that, but the fact of the matter is there have been no frauds on contactless payments in India as of now. So therefore, it's all the more important that we all push it together. It promotes, is the fastest, safest, and the healthiest way to make payments.
You made some very valid arguments in favor of contactless. But what's also happening is that contactless, as you rightly mentioned, is just not about contactless on the terminal, which is also about the contactless on the NFC phones. And which, in my opinion, what is happening is that all the merchants are also looking at the options which are asset-light models. And somewhere it is always a debate whether if everybody moves to asset-light model, the terminals are going to stay there. Are terminals going to be there for long? And that's where one pertinent question which comes to my mind, which I'm asking to Navin, is how do you ensure that terminals stay forever and they are more productive and they offer better ROI for the merchants as well as for the banks and the acquirers? So what is that we need to do to make sure that terminals are always more productive from an ROI standpoint, more throughput, more transactions on these terminals?
Okay. See, on the contactless part, I just want to extend, then go to the terminal part. See, largely our ecosystem today is contactless. Even UPI is a contactless-based payment, just that there's no AFA part relaxation is bit given. You tend to put your NPCI PIN, and after that, your transaction gets authorized. Typical wave and pay, your NFC-based payments, these are contactless with a AFA restriction. AFA relaxation. Now, when we are moving towards terminal light model, definitely that suits a different set of a merchant, that suits a smaller format of a merchant, which we have seen the adoption through how the UPI QR codes got adopted across a board, how even if you go to a vegetable vendor, he is able to display your UPI QR code. However, the moment you start moving to the larger format merchant, the established shops, they are still not going away away from your terminals, but the utility of terminals are constantly going up. So definitely we are doing tap and pay on a terminal. We are also scanning QRs on a terminal. We have a dynamic QRs on a terminal. We are making UPI payments with fixed billing that is being provisioned. Now UPI is also coming with your GST invoicing. So when you are scanning the code to make the payment, that is also going to incorporate the GST and benefit for the merchant as well as for the consumer. So there's a clear-cut directive from a government side also to make these payments, even at a larger format merchant, even with UPI, with full provisions of all taxation benefits. Secondly, the terminal that we are talking about, these terminals typically used to facilitate only card-based transactions. Today, that is not the scenario. Today, they are able to do much more than card-based transactions. We have seen our partners model wherein they are able to offer wallet-based payments. They're able to offer UPI-based payment, NFC-based payments, and it is just the beginning of it. It's all about can we continue to offer value-added services on our terminals. So today there are EMIs on our terminals that we are offering. So that makes sense. That increases the ROI for the merchant as well as for a consumer, and definitely it's a business for bank as well as the card network providers. So the whole point is where the asset light model will work and where the terminal model will continue to be dominating. So that what we see even in future, the terminal form factor may change. It may be the standard terminal that we see in a market, or it may move on to the desktop-based terminal, PC-based terminals. But these terminals continues to remain relevant till the time cards are there in our systems. And I don't foresee at any given future that additional factor relaxation will be 100% in cards. So after a certain point, you tend to make higher value payment on these large merchant formats. So you require card terminals. So that will always remain a relevant part for our industry. It's just that our business models are changing. For smaller merchant format, we are going for a QR-based payment system, which is beneficial for the merchant as well as for the consumer. For larger format, we continue to stay on the same path where we were.
Yeah, so when you look at the terminals, as you rightly said, between the asset light model and the terminals, the first choice comes from the fact that which segment do we want to address. So the segmentation is very important when we look at what model and what platform we want to offer to our merchants. But there is one thing which is happening, and I am sure that you guys must have really observed this, that even if you talk about a merchant at a MSME level, SME level, or at the enterprise level, everybody is talking about the omni-channel environment. And when it comes to the omni-channel environment, it is also being driven by the consumers. Because if you look at, they would research online, buy offline, or they would actually go and research online, research offline, and then buy online. So whichever is the combination in terms of the research, online, offline, then they want to experience the whole, like in Amazon has started up with their own retail store. So this whole idea of combining online and offline and having a standardized payment experience is what is omnichannel all about. And if you look at a smaller merchant, even at a mom and pop store, he actually wants an omnichannel experience, somebody who can come pick up from his uh, shop, or somebody who delivers, and the payment can happen either through UPI, or somebody can pay here and he will deliver at home. So all those models which are evolving, which are very new, and across all the categories of merchant. So I would want to take opinion from all three of you on what's your take on the omni-channel experience and how it's going to benefit consumers as well as the merchants. So maybe Vikas, you can start with your point.
Sure, Vishal. Yeah, thanks, Vishal. So I think let's take a step back. The advent of omni-channel. Let's ask ourselves a fundamental question: Why does a merchant take a POS terminal, or why is payments required for a merchant, right? And I think the reason why a POS device or any payment service is required by a merchant is not to facilitate payments, but his reason for doing it is to grow his sales. All that a merchant is interested in is how can he grow his sales. whereas people in this room, we all want to promote digital payments, and I of course understand that. But for a merchant, let's understand all that he's interested in is grow his sales and grow his profits. So as long as there is anything, any service that is provided to him which can help him achieve those two objectives, he will be all game. Now, what has happened is the merchant has realized, and more so because of the pandemic, when there was social distancing, consumers were not going to his shop. A lot of these neighborhood grocery stores realize that unless they provide remote payments or do home deliveries, they'll have to practically shut the shop, right? So a lot of small kiranas in my neighborhood, they started accepting link-based payments. They would send the deliveries to my house, and they would send me a WhatsApp message saying, click on this, and you can make the payment. So out of the necessity to kind of continue to sustain business and grow business, all of them started moving to omnichannel. And from the consumer side, we all know consumer is always looking for more choices, right? So this entire intersection of merchants trying to find more ways to sustain their business and grow their business on one side, and consumers looking for more choice, whether, when I was talking about his wife about scan and pay, and talking about the kid who was doing Alexa payments, we're all looking for more choices. That's the name of the game. So I think the intersection of both these forces are leading to this emergence of omni-channel experience on both sides of the equation, which is the consumer and the merchant.
Yeah, the choices. So it's a very famous sort of an analogy which I always talk about. That earlier, when we used to study about the marketing in our MBA days, there were 4 P's. And now this 5th P has evolved, which is payments. And payments actually decide what is going to be the consumer choice. Now, Vinay, what's your take on omnichannel?
So traditionally, payments is a two-sided network, Vishal. There is consumers and there is payments. There is merchants, right? I think over the last 10, 15 years, we have focused a lot on how customer side equation evolves, what kind of convenience, what kind of selection we are giving. But on the merchant side, I think there is a lot of work that still needs to be done. And I think when we talk about omni-channel, the biggest side of the network that's going to benefit from omni-channel is going to be the merchant. And the reason, I'll tell you why. Today, if you look at the digital adoption in merchants, the figures say only not more than 5% of MSMEs in this country adopt some kind of digitization, right? If you really want to grow the digitization of MSMEs in this country to 20%, I think there is no better way where the amalgamation of POS system and the omni-channel strategy will come together to create that ecosystem. Now, what will happen today? What will happen is merchants today have completely been ignored by the industry in terms of their life cycle needs. If you look at a merchant, he's not just looking for payments. He's looking for how do I get credit? How do I buy products for cheaper so that I can sell for a better margin at my store? How can I get more financial products easier to access? I don't have to come shop around at various places, because if you look at the literacy of the MSMEs in this country, it's pretty low, right? I mean, the reason why digitization has already not taken off is primarily because of the low literacy of MSMEs, because of which there are a lot of solutions that are coming in the market, but the access to that solution requires some technology savviness, which does not exist in the MSME. So you need to figure out a way of providing them as a one single or a one-stop shop or a one single interface where they can access a lot of these products, be it credit, insurance, be it buying from other businesses, or be it converting their physical shop into an online store, right? And maintaining the inventory across both of them through the same kind of a terminal or a interface or whatever it is. So omni-channel, if you were to think of a POS system, I would not call them POS terminals in the future. I'll probably start calling them smart terminals, because these terminals will now evolve from physical payments to a complete management of an MSME ecosystem, right from analyzing what kind of payments is he getting. Is he eligible for credit? Can I pitch a new insurance product for him on it? Can I tell him where he should buy his products for cheaper, let's say from an Amazon business or from an Udaan shop, so that he gets better margins for the inventory that he is buying and he can sell it at a better rate to his customers? where should he start listing his products across various stores? Because today you can sell it on WhatsApp Business, you can sell it on Amazon, you can sell it on Flipkart, you can do it on Meesho, tomorrow Shopify, Shopsy, whatever it is. There are so many, verticals that are coming up for online shopping, and every customer, every merchant wants to sell his product to as many customers as possible, right? So he will be able to use that one single omni-channel terminal to start pushing his products to customers across the country. Today is only able to service 1 or 2 kilometers radius of customers, but with this he'll be able to service customers across the country or across whatever he wants to choose. Second is, will he be able to adopt more new products and services like taxation, GST, payroll? What is happening is a lot of these products exist today in piecemeal. Today there is something called Dukan, which is doing something. There is something on Meesho. There is something happening. One is looking at shopping, one is looking at Khata, one is looking at financial products, one is looking at One Card, which provides finance. So I think there is a large white space which can converge into an omni-channel strategy, which can provide all these things with a significant amount of data usage, and start mapping the life cycle of the merchant and start giving him those options, throwing him at every certain interval that you're now eligible for a credit product, you're now eligible for an insurance product. You can now sell on so-and-so store. You can now buy it from so-and-so store. So I think that is going to really, catapult the digitization of MSMEs from whatever less than 5% to 20%. And that's where omni-channel is going to play a significantly large role on the merchant ecosystem. So that's my view. And I think that's going to be the transformational change that's going to happen in this country.
You actually have changed the whole, you have actually reformed the whole definition of omnichannel, because I also agree, omnichannel should not just be restricted to the choices, but also it should go beyond payments. And I think what you said is that there is to be some thought around omnichannel, which should look beyond payments. So Navin, over to you now. What is that you think? You have large distribution network available, huge customers base available in the bank. What is your thought? How is omnichannel going to affect both on the consumer as well as the merchant side?
Looking at the past trends, omnichannel evolved over a period of time in a strategy that from bank provided infrastructure that typically merchant uses, we have moved on to the infrastructure which customer already have. So our journey is towards a fact that it is at a consumer convenience and it's at consumers' own devices, which makes things easier for a consumer plus more secure for a consumer. And that's how our omni-channel strategies have grown over a period of time. So earlier we had our terminals where customer used to come, tap or swipe a card, do a transaction. That was a traditional model that we have. And today we are talking about a consumer able to do transaction from his own device or maybe a link-based payment. And this is going to gradually grow towards a direction that consumer is able to do these kind of payments through the connected devices. A consumer is presently restricted either calling up a shop or asking the delivery to come to him and then make a payment, which to a greater extent has been eased by players like Flipkart, Amazon, and the online stores. Going forward, the larger payment omni-channel strategy should be focusing towards the consumer devices, the connected devices that we have, and that's where somewhere the Google Assistant, the Alexa, the whole voice-based payment systems are working on. And definitely, this is going to be driven by the consumer demand. On whatever side the consumer are convenient at, that's where the omni-channel strategy will be.
Yeah, so innovation has to be the core of the roadmap for growth on the digital payments. So I think we are just about to close the panel discussion. So before that, I just want maybe one closing remark from each of you. In our own way, we are on the war against the cash. So what is that you guys think is that we need to do, or as an industry, we need to do to step up our war against the cash? So maybe to start with Vinay, and then maybe we can come to Vikas and then Navin, and then maybe we can close our panel discussion. And I'm sure this panel has been the most interesting panel for our viewers, with varied experience from scheme, from a very large fintech, and from the large bank. So over to you, Vinay.
Yeah, so my view is, I think digitization is going at a really large, fast pace in the consumers and the merchant side, especially on the consumer side, adoption of internet, social media, and everything, right? But digital payments is not moving that fast. We need to take this war to where this things is actually happening. For example, I think the most important thing, if you look at from an e-commerce perspective, right, it's cash on delivery, right? More than 40-50% of e-commerce orders still go on cash on delivery. That's because people don't have trust in digital payments still. But if you're able to provide that trust at the doorstep to the customer and giving him the option of a digital payment at the doorstep when the product comes, and you're able to create a very seamless experience there, I think the first win is going to happen there on digital transactions that are happening. I mean, digital orders are being placed, but digital payments are not happening. So how do you convert that cash customer to a digital customer is the first step. Second is a lot of shopping, 95% of the shopping in India still happens offline at our Kirana stores. I think it's extremely important to provide very trustworthy, seamless, and fast experiences that happen at offline stores at digital, because that creates the first trust. Because I'm getting my product across the table. I can also trust the seller. So if that guy is asking me to make a digital payment, then it also starts creating a trust in the digital payments ecosystem. So I think it's very important to get our QR codes or whatever EDC machines, POS terminals across every single MSME in this country and start enabling them to at least start accepting digital payments. I think that's the first and the most important. I mean, whatever form factor, it could be an asset light model, could be a hardcore Android POS terminal, or could be, a QR code, but every single MSME should be digitally enabled. I think these are the two most important, action items as a digital payments industry that we need to carry to wage a war against cash. But obviously you cannot eliminate cash, but at least I think these inputs will significantly drive a positive change in the way we look at increasing this digital payment ecosystem.
Yeah, so when you spoke about two important points, one is the coverage, the increase in coverage, and second is the whole experience of payments for the consumers. And I think very relevant point. So Vikas, what is your take and closing remarks on how to step up?
So firstly, I think we should be immensely proud of ourselves as an industry. The way India has grown in terms of promoting digital payments is absolutely, there are no parallels. Recently, I was reading a report. We have overtaken China in terms of mobile-based account-to-account payments as well, right? So I think gone are the days when solutions would come from developed markets and will be brought to India. It is time Indian solutions, and QR was one. EMVCO QR, Bharat QR was launched in India and taken to the entire globe. And the same story happened with Omni-channel. So I think we should be immensely proud of ourselves. And I think if we look at from the first principles and fundamentally the base theme to grow digital payments, and we continue our focus there, which is how do we provide more safety, security, and convenience to the consumers and the merchants. If we keep that at the back of the mind, I think I have no doubt in mind we will be among the topmost economies in terms of digital payments.
Yeah, because you rightly said, we have to feel proud about ourselves. Whatever we have achieved in the last 3-4 years, and we know it all, that if you compare even the markets like America or US markets or European markets, in some way we still have been able to put up the whole war in a far better manner than those countries. So definitely, you look at the instant payments, you look at how we are going beyond payments. I think that's pretty interesting to see. So Navin, what's your view and what's your take?
Yeah, I would say it would be, consistency, building reach, and ensuring availability. So that is all about payments. So we know we have done good in tier 1 to 3, done very good even in up to tier 6 for mobile to mobile based payments. But to a larger extent, what Vinay and Vikas both has pointed out, coverage of MSME to a larger extent into the payment systems and assimilating them in the whole journey. That is required more from tier 3 to 6 centers that we need to focus and build our reach. Second is availability, because availability also gives consistency and confidence to the consumer and build their trust that your payments will be accepted across the board. And you be in tier 1 city or tier 6 city, you will be able to seamlessly make payment using, say, your mobile device, your card, because there will be some machine, there will be some QR code which will be present there. We have to reach to that degree of confidence for our consumer. So from uptime perspective, it has to be say 99.5%. So is the availability perspective, and that's when we'll really have the transformation when the cash will be transit out of the economy and will be largely a digital economy on this particular forefront.
Yes, what I hear from all of you guys is that we have come very far, but we still are very far from where we should really be. And I think with all what you said in terms of technology, innovation, reach, security, experience, I think all of that has to be put in together. Today, the market seems to be pretty fragmented in terms of the supplier side, and there are people who would focus on certain niche experience. But I think we have to look at something which is more interoperable, something which is more common, which is more standard across all the fintech players and the banks and the acquirers. And the payment is bound to grow. And I think all the contribution which we are doing and putting together on individual level and from our organization standpoint, I think that will help us that will help us see a very bright future very soon. And let's hope that we are able to build a very secured, seamless, convenient payment infrastructure within the country. So thank you very much, everyone. And thanks a lot for joining us
Thank you.
today.